Okay, this is Mr. Wallace, your driver education instructor, and we are in Lesson 7, Part 2. We had just talked about pedestrians and the responsibilities that we have to them and their right of way, right? And now we're going to talk about special considerations, like what makes them so vulnerable, what can we expect. Okay, so children, we need to recognize right away, children are less visible to drivers than adults are. Okay, they, especially, for example, I'll give you an example. When you're backing up with your vehicle, little children don't stand tall enough for you to be able to see them. They actually don't reach the lower limit of your windows. Okay, so it's important to take a good look around before you even get into your car to be aware of little children. Okay, older people, they have their own issues. They're slow, for example. They may fall easily, right? And they also do not hear very well or even see very well. So they may be unaware of possible conflicts that a regular middle-aged person would be able to recognize. We also need to be aware that pedestrians may be distracted, right? It's not unusual to see pedestrians crossing roads, even jaywalking, texting or looking at their phones, or possibly listen to music, right? I can think of joggers, for example, or in some other way distracted, maybe talking to each other or looking the wrong way. We see this pretty often. It's very, very usual to see these types of situations. Okay, always be cautious and expect the unexpected when coming out of alleys, driveways. These are like key zones here where we need to be extra vigilant. Okay, when we're bringing our car either forwards or especially backwards out of alleys, out of driveways, driving through school zones. There's plenty of opportunity for young people to be in the road during at school zones. Okay, driving on busy cities cross streets. That's another one too, where we have a lot of jaywalkers, especially narrow, busy streets too. I tend to think that these ones are really hard to see all the pedestrians, especially if they're coming out from parked cars. Right, places next to parks, and also in residential neighborhoods where there's plenty of children either already in the street or headed to the street if a ball, for example, goes into the street. So we need to be careful of all these things. And parking lots present the highest risk area of hitting pedestrians. There are just so many pedestrians of all different mixes in parking lots. And we need to be exceedingly vigilant there. Okay, so let's watch this video here about intersection perfection. And after we do so, let's answer these questions of what is your responsibility when, as a driver, when turning at an intersection, even with a green arrow, and what is a pedestrian's responsibility at an intersection? Here we go.
At intersections, it's not just about my moves. It's about yours too. See Coop Guy? He has a green light, but before he can turn, he's got to wait for oncoming traffic to clear. And at the same time, make sure no one's in the crosswalk. And dog walking lady, when she's crossing, she should always check for turning traffic, even if she has the walk signal. There's a lot going on at intersections, but when it all comes together, it's intersection perfection. See and be seen.
Okay. So there's this very specific point of this video, which is we want everyone to be safe and we want everyone to flow safely, right? So what is our responsibility when making a turn or even going straight in an intersection? We need to be cognizant of what is happening in the crosswalk where we are about to intersect, right? If there are people in the crosswalk, we need to stop and wait for them, okay? And the right thing to do is to wait for traffic to clear, make sure there's no people in the crosswalk, and then make our turn, rather than wait for traffic to clear, start our turn, then look for people in the intersection and stop our car, and then block traffic that wants to go straight. Okay. What is a pedestrian's responsibility? Pedestrian's responsibility is, first of all, to obey the signals when to cross, for sure. Okay, we don't always get that. The other thing is, as a pedestrian, it's you who is really at risk here. You ought to be very cognizant of the traffic coming at you, either coming at you right here immediately on your left, or any traffic that is going to be crossing through the intersection. You want to make sure that they see you. Okay, and this is when we talk about eye contact. How do we know that they know? It's eye contact. Here we go. Moving along, if I can. There we go. Okay, so in this video, we're going to identify the variety of ways that drivers are distracted in this video. Okay, we're going to identify 2 mistakes that the pedestrians make. We're going to discuss how multiple factors add up to an accident and how this informs us as great drivers. These last 2 are not really part of this situation per se, but we can discuss them in this context. You'll see in just a sec.
Distractions. It's going to be a beautiful sunny day. They steal your attention when it matters most. They're dangerous when you're driving, and just as dangerous when you're walking.
Okay, so we can identify a variety of ways that drivers are distracted in this video. We had 2 buddies kind of playing around with each other, listening to music. We had a guy pushing his dog away from him, right? A pet that's distracting the driver. We had someone who's eating a sandwich and having it fall all over their lap. We had another person who was applying her makeup in the rear, using the rear view mirror to apply her makeup instead of keeping her eyes on the road. These are all extremely common distractions while driving, right? And guess what? They're all kind of legal compared to some of the ones that are less legal. Like, for example, if you are texting and driving, right, or doing something with your phone, that's bordering on flat out illegal. It's definitely a violation. You're not going to get the same number of points if you're applying makeup. However, it's certainly a distraction, right? Even raising your cup of coffee is taking away around 30% of your total vision, and probably a good, 30% of your of each one, the core, the fringe, and the peripheral. Probably not peripheral, but the other 2. So, we need to be cognizant that distractions exist in all different forms. Okay, we're going to identify 2 mistakes that the pedestrian makes here. Okay, we can see that there were 2 right there, right from the spot, right on the spot. One of them was, yep, you guessed it, he was on his phone. He wasn't paying attention. He's listening to music, maybe, talking on his phone. I don't know. He was looking at it, that's for sure. The other one is he didn't even cross at a crosswalk, right? He was going to jaywalk and not even look at the traffic. Now that there is just that there starts to talk about multiple factors that lead up to an accident. Okay, so here we had a person who decided he's going to cross a road at a place where we normally don't expect people to cross a road. He really doesn't have the right to cross a road at that spot. Okay, so he's crossing a road. So that's one factor, crossing at a place where he's not expected to be crossing. 2, he's going between 2 cars, which makes it very difficult for us to see him until it's almost too late. That's factor number 2. Factor number 3, he doesn't even bother looking where he's going, right? He just starts walking out into the road. 4, he's not he's not listening to what's going on around him, right? So his sense of hearing is not going to help him detect any danger, right? Those are 4 factors right there that I just mentioned. And if you take away any one of them, and the result was an accident, right? You take away, and let's throw on there another factor and say the driver was distracted. He was one of those drivers that we just saw a little bit earlier. So we got 5 factors right there. If you take away any one of those factors, possibly that accident does not take place. Okay. You take away the person who was distracted driving, and he's going to be able to maneuver his car in time to not hit that pedestrian. You have that pedestrian who's paying attention to where he's going. He's going to stop himself before he steps out into traffic. You have that even if he's not wearing, maybe he's not paying attention, but he's not wearing earbuds, he's able to hear traffic coming and he stops himself in time, right? Or he's crossing at the crosswalk where we can expect pedestrians to be crossing and he doesn't get hit. Or maybe he's crossing in a place where there's no cars so that we can see him way ahead of time so we know that, we're aware of him and we don't hit him, okay? All of these things inform us so that we can be great drivers. When we can recognize that if you take away one factor, it can be the difference between life and death. We become great drivers because then we're starting to behave in a way that that's going to take away one of those factors. Now, us as drivers, there's really only one factor we can take away from that, right? That we can subtract from that whole sum of factors, right? And that's not being distracted, right? And that's what we're trying to learn here is and develop our habits of not doing things that are going to distract us, right? We're not going to take that drink, of coffee, especially in some, environment like that where it's rather common to have people jaywalking. Okay.
Driving or walking, see and be seen. The instant you stop paying attention could be the instant you'll always regret.
Okay, so take a look at this video. Why did the filmmaker put an oncoming vehicle in this video? What are some of the good habits displayed in this video? What are some of the bad ideas that were displayed in this video? And how does this video clip help us be great drivers?
Quick, how many people do you see? 1, maybe 2? Guess again. As a pedestrian, you see headlights, but that doesn't mean the driver sees you. When walking at dawn, dusk, or after dark, make sure to be seen by oncoming traffic. Walk facing traffic. Wear light-colored, light-reflective clothing. Carry a bright light so drivers can see you.
Okay, so let's stop right here. So the filmmaker put that oncoming car in the video because if you have an oncoming car, there's glare. It makes it more difficult for us to pick up movement or things on the sides of the roads in the dark. Okay, it makes it that much more difficult to recognize other stuff on the dark. So what are the good habits we see in this video? Okay, we see the man and woman here wearing light-colored shirts. I mean, even the dog's kind of light-colored. They are walking against the traffic instead of with it. That's smart. And they're crossing at a crosswalk. These are all good things. And one of the beautiful things that we have nowadays is we have phones that we can turn on that special light. I don't know what to call it other than the light. But that light just automatically makes us known. So long as that driver isn't distracted, he or she should be able to see that light and put, make the lane positioning, make appropriate lane positioning so that they're going to avoid the pedestrians. Okay. So some of the bad ideas in the video. Okay, well, clearly this woman here is wearing all black, and she was hard to see, or even impossible to see. And I've I don't know about you. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people on rather roads, like country roads, 55-mile-per-hour roads with no shoulders, wearing black. I've seen it. And you almost wonder, is this person just, does he have a death wish? Not, I mean, literally a couple days ago on a pretty busy road, like I'm talking like highway level road, we saw two bikers that were completely in black, no lights. This was at night. And the only thing we saw were the reflectors on their pedals. That's how I recognized they were there. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't pick them up in my high beams. It was unreal. I couldn't believe it. Um, okay. And so, how does this make us great drivers? When we recognize that people don't always do smart things, we can start to anticipate where, I don't know, stupidity is not really a nice word to use, but where maybe foolishness or ignorance comes into play, we can kind of anticipate it more and we can expect it. And I think that's the type of thing that helps us, you know, uh, not develop those habits that, create to, contribute to distracted driving. Like, for example, drinking that coffee, and taking away like 30% of your vision. Okay.
Crosswalks. See and be seen. Pedestrian safety. It's no accident.
Okay, sharing the road with bicyclists. Key points here. And this is what it looks like right here on the right. All right. Give bicyclists extra space whenever possible. If you can't give them extra space, bring your car down to speed. Okay. First of all, right when you see them, you should take your foot off the accelerator. Bring your car down to the same speed they are and stay a couple car lengths, a car and a half length behind them or 2 car lengths behind them. All right. I've had to do this several times when they're in the road, there's no shoulder, there's oncoming traffic, or there's a blind turn. You have to go their speed. Okay. And it's really slow if they're going uphill. Always expect the cyclist to pull out in front of you. You have to expect this, guys, because we don't know what they're going to encounter. But we can look ahead of them. Maybe a pothole's coming. Maybe a huge puddle's coming. Maybe there's storm drains coming, or maybe there's railroad tracks. There could be a car door flinging open. All that stuff is going to push that bicyclist right out in front of you. And we have to expect that. Okay, so when we finally have a chance to pass the bicyclist, we need to make sure there's no oncoming traffic, and we need to pull way out a lane and a half. We're in the A position going around the bicyclist. Okay. Okay, more about sharing the bicyclist key points. So the bicyclist responsibilities are these. Okay, they're supposed to share the responsibility for avoiding conflicts with other road users. They should be wearing a helmet. Okay, they should know the laws regarding roadway riding, right? Lane position and sidewalk riding. They should obey all the signs, signals, and laws, although we know that they don't. Okay, they should wear light colored clothing, and they should have lights and reflectors on their bicycles when riding at night. Okay, they should have these things. It's a law. When I lived in Key West, it was an absolute law. You would get pulled over if you did not have a blinking red light on the back of your bike and a white light on the front of your bike. You would get it pulled over, and you would get a ticket. Okay. They're not supposed to wear earphones. Okay, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm guilty of that. I like to listen to music, or I even like to talk on the phone when I'm riding my bike. Keep bicycles in safe operating condition. Yep, that's usually something that most adults do, but maybe not kids. Okay, mopeds and motor scooters, special considerations. And again, for someone who's lived in the Florida Keys, I can talk about this with a lot of authority. Okay. And you might see this too also in crowded urban areas like New York City. There are a lot of people who use mopeds for a variety of reasons. One is they're very cheap. In QS, they use them because they're a lot of fun and cheap to rent, relatively speaking. But there's a lot of limitations. One of them is acceleration. Now, the number one thing is you are completely exposed as if you're a bicyclist or a motorcyclist. Okay, you may not be able to keep up with traffic. When approaching, takes the same precautions as a bicycle, for sure. And in Key West, for example, there's always tourists that rent these things, and it's the first time, seriously, the first time they've ever gotten on something like this. Okay, they barely know how to operate it. They might have gotten a 5 minute and uh, 5 minutes worth of instruction on how to use a moped. And literally, people, you would see this all the time. People would crash the mopeds daily. It was daily. And the hospital was always full of, moped accidents when people crashed. And there's even a place called the Moped Hospital on Key West for all the mopeds that get, damaged because of all the accidents. I'm not joking. And on top of that, and this is the worst part, and this is serious, there are always fatalities every year, multiple fatalities that result from moped accidents. It happens all the time. So you need to treat them the same way as a bicycle. In fact, maybe even be more cautious than someone on a bicycle. Okay, now we're getting to motorcycles. Okay, so New York State does require motorcyclists to wear a helmet. That's not the case in every state. It's not the case in the state of Florida, for example. Motorcyclists can ride around without a helmet. There's a lot of things they should be doing. They should be wearing a helmet. They should use eye protection. Can you imagine people riding around without any eye protection and something flies into their eye? How are they going to react on their motorcycle? Especially if they're driving 55 miles per hour or faster, right? They should be wearing stuff that's going to protect them in case something hits them or they fall off the bike, like heavy shoes or boots, full leather pants, leather jacket, heavy long sleeve shirt, and full fingered gloves. We don't always see that, do we? Some special considerations whenever you are around cyclists, you need to be extremely cautious, but even more so when you consider that all of a sudden things can really change for them if you have rain, for example, or something like that. Even hot weather can cause a pavement to become slippery for them. Okay. And whenever the road conditions deteriorate, you have to have really perfect road conditions to really enjoy being on a motorcycle. And it's not that common to have really good road conditions. Okay. All types of things can cause problems like potholes to a motorcyclist. Okay. Some other special considerations: motorcycle tires can get caught in railroad tracks, for example. Railroad tracks cause a problem. Any type of bump causes a problem for cyclists, motorcyclists. Motorcyclists carrying passengers need greater attention as the extra passenger affects acceleration, braking, and turning, right? They're more kind of clumsy. They often travel in groups. Yep, we know that. Turn signals are often small. They are hard to see. It is true. Motorcyclists can use hand signals. Yeah, you can sometimes expect that. You should expect that for bicyclists, especially hand signals. Motorcyclists can drive right or left of center of the lane because of oil slickness. Okay, right. And we will always see them on one side of the lane or the other, right? So the oil slickness then, guys, is in the middle of the lane. Okay, here's a little clip on motorcyclists that I took the other day driving back. I believe this is in the state of Virginia. And I'm going to make this, I'm going to enlarge this for us.
Mr. Wallace, your driver education instructor. So, one of the complications that you're undoubtedly going to encounter at some point in your driving life
is the extra complication of motorcycles along your route. Okay. The thing to consider most about motorcyclists is that they're incredibly vulnerable. Okay, so if they fall from their motorcycles, they're going to experience injuries regardless if they get hit by a vehicle. However, if they by a vehicle going 40 miles per hour, they're going to most likely die from that experience. So you want to give them plenty of space wherever they happen to be, either in front of you, to the side of you, and so on. And I know these guys, I've been giving them plenty of space and people have been cutting in, and that's just what's going to happen. But another thing to consider too that I want you to remember is road features. So turns in the road, stoppages, sudden stoppages in traffic, or just simply the condition of the road itself with holes, for example, potholes or dirt. These things can all affect their balance and put them on the ground. And if you hit them, then it becomes your problem in a very, very serious way. So it is best in every single circumstance to give them a wide berth, plenty of room, and see, here we go. So we have almost a stoppage in traffic here. And you know, I'm managing what's going on behind me in my rear view mirror. But they're just so incredibly vulnerable on a road like this where traffic is often over 70 miles per hour. All right. So getting back to our questions here, and then we're going to stop our video for part 2. What were some good or bad traffic behaviors that you saw in this video? One of them was we had someone, right as I'm talking about giving them a lot of space, we have someone come right in front of me, cut in front of me. And especially this black SUV came up right behind the motorcyclist and had to actually apply their brakes so that they wouldn't run into the motorcyclists. And at the same time, their flasher on their left side kept blinking. I don't know if you noticed that. They didn't seem to be I don't know, all together with it. Okay, as a vehicle driver, what is the best thing you can do to avoid conflicts with motorcyclists? The best thing to do is to give them a lot of space. Okay, you do not want to be involved in an accident with a motorcyclist. It might not be your fault, but if that motorcyclist is terribly injured or, God forbid, dies in the accident with you, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to defend your culpability. Okay. And a lot of this, guys, a lot of what we do is really like risk management. Okay. And it's just not worth the risk. Okay. Being a couple feet closer or, like 100 feet closer, just isn't worth the risk. Okay. You don't get, the gain isn't worth it. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for now and we'll continue with part 3 in a little bit.